We are Social Media Breakfast Madison, so thank you so much for attending our live small business audit. This is going to be a lot of fun. We did this back in November for nonprofits, and it was a huge success. So we thought, hey, why not do it for small businesses as well? A little bit about us. Our focus is education, learning about social media for businesses through presentations, panel discussions, and case studies. We also bring together marketers, PR professionals, students, and entrepreneurs, and social media enthusiasts like yourselves to learn more about social media and connect with each other and grow business opportunities. When we meet every third Wednesday of the month, and we, of course, have various locations. Thank you very much to Upstart today for hosting here at the Discovery Building. If you're looking to host and would like to host us, if you have space for 200 to 300 individuals, we'd love to talk to you. Maybe your house, backyard, whatever. It's summer, it's fine. If you'd like to sponsor, obviously, here's the thing. It's free attendance, right? But this is not a free event. So we are run by some very great sponsors. So if you have come to these and found great value and your company is getting a lot out of the lessons you are learning from coming to these events, I would consider speaking to that, your business, and considering sponsoring and helping get in front of our audience as well and helping us continue to grow this. And if you do have any questions about any of these, please feel free to see myself, Josh, or any one of my other board members here today. We do have scholarships available, so this is another part of why sponsorship is so important, because it helps us help you continue the education. So if you're looking to go to a larger conference, certainly reach out to one of our board members. We do have scholarship funding available to help send you to those events. Obviously, we're looking to be able to help grow the community, so being able to get some of that information back to our audiences is valuable as well. So if there's a conference that you know of that's coming up that focuses on social media and looking to get scholarship for that, certainly see us about that as well. Volunteers, we have a great volunteer group. Go to our Facebook page, join our volunteer group. We're always looking for volunteers. Again, it's a free event, so if you've gotten value out of it, we're always looking for people to help give back and contribute and continue to help grow this organization as well.
I'll just add, for those who don't know, this organization is 100% volunteer driven, so we don't have any staff, so it's you all that make these happen as much as it is us up here. So if you'd like to make that a little bit more formal, definitely join our Facebook group. The more help we have, the better these breakfasts seem to go. So we really appreciate you all.
This is our social media board, and I'd like to take a moment to introduce Abby Smith, who just joined our board this month. So a round of applause for her. She's been helping and contributing and volunteering over the last couple of months, and is crushing it on our Twitter feed as well. So thank you very much for all of your efforts so far, and we're happy to have you joining the board. Today's event brought to you by these wonderful, fantastic sponsors today. And I'd like to first call Chris from the Dream Bank up.
Thanks, Shane. My name is Chris. I'm from Dream Bank downtown. Anybody been to Dream Bank before? All right, awesome. So for those of you that may not be familiar with Dream Bank, we are a free community space located on the Capitol Square, put on by American Family Insurance, and we put on all kinds of great free programming as well. We're super proud to be a sponsor of Social Media Breakfast. We love what's going on here, and we're just honored to be a part of it. So today, I'm actually gonna tell you about 2 great free events that we have coming up in the next week, and I'm gonna give away some books as well. So, first of all, if you have a card like this on your seat, we have LinkedIn expert and author Wayne Breitbarth coming into the Dream Bank tomorrow from noon to 1:15. He's going to be talking about all the new LinkedIn changes. So we still have a few spots available for that. So be sure to sign up online if you want to get in on the action. And then if you have this black postcard, this Tuesday we have the VP of Product Development from Zendesk coming into town. And he's going to be talking about how to balance human connection with automation, really finding out that good mix of what your customers want. So that is Tuesday, noon to 1. We have in-person seating at the Dream Bank, but we're also going to be streaming that live as well. And I'm going to give away a couple books today. The first one will be just now. This is a new book. It's called Give. It's by Facebook ads expert Nicholas Kuschmitz. He's the behind brands like Tony Robbins, Todd Herman, and he's got a brand new book. It's called Give, and we're going to give away one here in a second, and then feel free to see us in the back, and you could enter to win a second one today. So the winner today is Steve Clyde. Where's Steve? All right, give it up for Steve.
Such a winner. Awesome. Next we have James from Powder Keg.
Hey, how's it going? We are Powder Keg Web Design is a web design studio. We're located out in Verona, just south of Madison here. We do custom website design development. So we work with a lot of small businesses, nonprofits. We work with 1-2 person companies up to Fortune 500 companies too. So if you're looking to get a website done, definitely reach out to us. We'd be happy to talk to you and learn about your business and what you're looking to do on the web. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Next we have Charlie from MG&E.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How's everyone's summer going? Pretty good? Pretty strong? Doesn't sound like it. Doesn't sound like it. I'm not feeling it. We got to turn this thing into the best summer ever, you know? And I think MG&E is going to try to do that. I want to give you guys a heads up on this pretty dope little thing that we got coming out with the help of some pretty amazingly talented filmmakers, artists, and people that are just really good at living lives. We are getting set to release a series of interconnecting films exploring community and energy right here in Madison, Wisconsin. And it's called Genre 2030. And it'll premiere on July 28th. So stay connected with MG&E on social media, and we'll let you know when that becomes a reality and how you can watch the films and experience the energy that is depicted in the film. So stay tuned.
Next, I'd like to invite Upstart to come up and say a few words. Obviously, Upstart has graciously hosted us here today at the Discovery Building. So I'll turn it over to Upstart, tell a little bit more about the program.
Sure. Hey, everyone. I'm Jackie. I work on the WARF Upstart program and just wanted to provide a little information on the program. So it's a free entrepreneurship program for women and people of color. And it's kind of a business 101 foundation we build. So we bring in experts and partner with the Small Business Development Center to talk about topics like taxes, insurance, accounting, all that kind of thing. We have 2 cohorts a year, one in the fall, one in the winter, spring, and the fall application period is open right now. So it's open until the end of June, and warf.org/upstart is a great place to go to apply or just reach out.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now, a show of hands, how many here are familiar with the Upstart program, have gone through the Upstart program, or are planning on doing the Upstart program soon? Perfect. Great. How many people have been to Social Media Breakfast Madison or your first time? Sorry, first time here? First time?
Wow.
All right. Perfect. And how many, show of hands, keep your hands up really quick. Now, here's the thing, right? Because we're all about networking, so please, those of you who have attended before, take note of who has their hands up and make sure you connect with them, introduce yourselves, do some networking, and at least say hi and introduce yourself, because that's really what this is about, is kind of networking and connecting everybody. All right, hashtag follow along on Twitter today, SMBMad. And I'd like to take a moment to turn this over to our expert panel. And we'll start with Rachel and have her tell a little bit about herself and her background. And we'll go right down the table and introduce our expert panel today.
Thank you. I'm Rachel Werner. I am the assistant editor and social media manager at Bravo Magazine. For anyone who's not familiar with Bravo, we are essentially the women's magazine of southern Wisconsin. We produce a publication 12 times a year, but then we also host many events as well in the area. We have a conference that over 270 women attended this year, along with luncheons and career workshops that anywhere from 150 to 200 women attend. I think it's almost monthly that we have something going on. And then we also host Kids and Women's Expo. And then aside from Brava, I also am a freelance writer and editor, which is what helped me get my job. I've been doing that for about 5 years, and I'm also a national women's cycling ambassador.
I'm Sarah Peck, and I am the Director of Communications at Cool Choices. It's a nonprofit in Madison here. Some of you might be familiar with the Green Madison program that we ran a couple years ago. We get businesses involved in engaging their employees and increasing their sustainability efforts at home and in the workplace. So I've been at Cool Choices since February. And prior to that, I worked agency side at Acumi. I'm an agency here in Madison, Wisconsin, and I was the social media specialist there for 3 years. Prior to that, I was a social media specialist for 2 years at another nonprofit, Goodwill Industries of South Central Wisconsin. So.
Hi there, everybody. Thanks for having me here. My name is Matt Nelson. I'm a freelancer. Mainly WordPress, search engine optimization, and social are kind of my things. I've been a marketer my whole adult life. I have a nonprofit here in town called Grow Madison. We teach WordPress, SEO, social media, kind of a lot of the stuff that you learn about but don't get to get your hands dirty with very often. Obviously do a lot of that stuff freelance as well. I also run a freelance group over at 100 State. Full disclaimer, the Jills are a sponsor, so they're good friends of mine, so I'm excited to get to pick on their business a little bit. And I probably could go on, but I appreciate you guys having me.
I'm Devin Renner. I am the Director of Marketing for True Coffee Roasters, and I do some consulting on the side for small, sort of independent businesses. I have a background in marketing since college, more or less, which I went to school for American history. Useless, don't do that. But I've worked in advertising for several years, focused on digital marketing, and so I am also happy to be here. Also, this coffee is not me, so True Coffee Roasters is in Fitchburg. We're very good. We would love for everyone to come and check us out.
Nice round of applause for our panel today. And guys, if you'd like to move the microphones a little bit closer to you, you can certainly move those so you're comfortable. All right, so we're going to get on with the show here. Now, this is a little... I was messing up my presentation. No, you're fine. Actually, I'm going to ask that the Jills come up at this time. They'll... we'll have, so how this will work, so the audience knows, is the Jills will come up. They're going to tell us a little bit about their business, what some of their strengths are, and kick off asking the panel some of the questions, telling them where they think their weaknesses are. And we're going to let this kind of turn over towards the panel. So it's a little bit more like a client, a client consultant kind of situation, and then myself and Josh will kind of add in any additional questions. So we'll go through each business for about 20 minutes and then switch. So,
come on.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us. We're happy to be here, and we are very happy to be picked apart by all of you, especially Matt. I'm Megan Boswell.
And I'm Corinne Neal.
And we co-founded together the Jills of All Trades. So it's an online platform that brings together freelancers and consultants so that they can find each other and that clients can find them. So having been new to the consulting game for about 3 years, I quickly learned that working for yourself is awesome and you have a lot of trade-offs, but you also have a lot of challenges too. There's no wonderful administrative assistant helping you. You don't have your IT department. You don't have that water cooler social effect. And Corinne had been working as a contractor for over 15 years. And so we collaborated on that and said there's got to be a better way to make sure that people stay connected, and working independently doesn't mean you have to work alone. So that's why we've got our tagline saying work solo, don't work silo. And all of these different engagements that Social Media Breakfast does together, we fully believe in that and just bring people together to make connections and find collaborators. So that's what the Jills is all about.
I'll just add that we are a women's focused business, and we really proactively made that decision for a number of reasons. But the one that really stood out for us is that when we started getting together with other freelancers, we found that it was not uncommon for women to take a step back or to not particularly be great self-promoters. But we did know for certain that what women did do when they got together was really champion each other, and they did it often and loudly and boldly. And so we wanted to take that energy to the Jills.
Yeah, lift up and link up, and we all win with that. That being said, we do have Jacks, and we welcome Jacks. So it's more about the philosophy and the camaraderie and the spirit of collaboration over competition. It's not about gender, but we're just serving who needs it right now, which tends to be women. So yeah, so we're happy to be here.
What happens now?
Yeah. We do not tap dance. So.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the strengths that you are seeing on, or that you feel you have on social media, and then maybe start with where you feel that maybe you've got some weaknesses.
Yeah, you bet. And we do have weaknesses, and we are excited about that because it means we've got opportunity. So we're just about a year past our official pilot test. So we were getting good membership, we were getting good traction, we were starting to get some good response from our topic. And now we're kind of at the point to say, okay, now we're into like V1, so how can we get settled? So another reason why we were so excited to have your expertise to help us get a good plan forward. So we know we have a lot of weaknesses, or we'd say opportunities. But our strengths, I would say, less about the volume in our topics is the interest in our topics. So creating messages and amplification around women's empowerment has been a good strength of ours, and it's a good timing. So while we don't have a ton of followers on Twitter, it's real easy to get a tag back and a volley back and an add a girl, that kind of thing. So our message is very much embraced and really strong in that regard.
I would say also we have, we put ourselves out on, we have Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest.
LinkedIn, company LinkedIn page, which is, yeah.
And
we basically just set up Instagram. We haven't, done that.
We have an Instagram account.
Yeah.
Yes, I noticed. I noticed.
Yes. We're going to get in trouble for that. But yeah, so we try to just sort of dabble across, knowing that we don't have any depth in one within. So I would say that is definitely a question, an opportunity for us to say, we're straddling across, does it make sense? We just lop off a couple so we can do better in just these two. And we know that that's a good question for us. But we are very confident in our voice. We're very confident in our message and our tone. We don't tiptoe around it. We're about women empowerment. We're about wage gap equity. We're about making sure that there's more flexible work options for any type of caregiver, for any type of person who wants more freedom to be able to travel and to work. If you are a baby boomer and you're thinking about retiring, we want to help you to make sure you slow down your work, but that you don't have to just stop and lop it off. So that we're very confident about what we're messaging, and we're bold to say that.
Yeah, and I think we're also really confident to say that we really believe that women should lead the future of work, and we hope that the Jills plays a role in that.
So I think now we'll invite the panel. I think you've all had a chance to look through the Jill's social. So top takeaways, maybe 2 or 3 things you notice, strengths, opportunities for growth. And then if the Jills have specific questions, maybe they want to pull up one of their preferred platforms, or maybe they want to follow the panel as they talk about.
Sure.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and start. So my first question to you is, where are the Jills? Like the Jills. I want to see more of the Jills.
The members.
The members. Yeah, I was actually real surprised because obviously I know you from work through Rava, and I agree. I think your message, your branding is very strong. But when I went to look at your social media platforms, I was like, oh, this is kind of a hot mess. which kind of threw me for a loop because you do. I always had this sense that you had this very strong presence online, but if you actually go to your actual pages, like you said, you have an Instagram page, but you don't, or account, but you don't really post there. And and it would be kind of like having a website that's up that there's nothing you can see yet. And I always get a little confused when someone has a website up that says coming soon, and it's like, well, lovely, but it doesn't help me right now.
Right. Yeah, sure enough.
You know, but I do think that you guys are very clear about what you are. The wording's very strong and the branding's very consistent across the platforms. I would just like to see some more consistency. And I would say if you're not using a particular platform right now, you might as well not have it active because it looks like half done.
Or in Instagram's case, like just not done at all.
Yeah.
Because Pinterest, that's a platform that we like, and that comes naturally, and so there's some depth there. So we're building that out, and then thinking from there we can use those assets to then feed Instagram. So that's definitely understood why that's kind of a hole for now. And then related to the members, that's a big question for us that we bring forward to the panel as experts. So we've been having engagement with the members in person in 3D, and that's also part of our philosophy that we want you to be socialized and face-to-face, because we know that a strong professional relationship is built on personal connections. So we have events and different get-togethers, and coming soon a nice coordination with Eugenia Podesta for Synergy Co-working, and we'll have Jill's work days at Synergy and all those kind of things. But digitally, we have not had the members volley back to us. It's been a tennis game, and the ball stays there. And so that's sort of a question for us, because the members themselves haven't wanted to come forward, and it could be part of that not wanting to promote, or they're not wanting to kind of put themselves out there. But that we know is a great opportunity, and right now disadvantage without having the members have that community. So we have a closed, what would you say, a member Facebook group,
a private group,
private Facebook group, just for members only, and then sometimes we tag them specifically. And then coming forward, we have a plan to we're just going to spotlight them without them asking, kind of thing. So individual spotlights on members, or collectives, like these are all the graphic designers, these are the STEM Jills, or that kind of thing. So we'd love your thoughts to how to get a volley back and get that engagement.
Well, kind of to Rachel's point, that was the thing that I took away from most of what I sort of delved in on your platforms was, you post good content, but there's not a ton of original content. And I think seeing more of that would be hugely useful. And I can sort of imagine that you might have some of your members who aren't necessarily interested or don't feel that their businesses are to the point where they want to be showcased like that. I don't think you have to limit it to them. So if you had something like a blog focusing on women business leaders in the community, or even doing, I had looked, I didn't see that you had a YouTube channel. So if you had a YouTube channel set up, and maybe you're doing a web series where, you're interviewing either members or, again, people in the community. If you could get to the point where you could parlay that into, grow it enough to where you even had maybe a podcast, and you're talking to women across the country, women, leaders, and talking about the challenges that they faced and some of the struggles and different things that they had to do, and having that traffic driven back to your website and building your membership that way, I think at that point it would become systemic. So maybe that's one thought.
Yeah, we love the idea of the podcast, and certainly we're based in Madison, and our first hub developed organically out of Madison, but we do have Jills that are already based in Austin and Portland, Seattle, Chicago, Milwaukee, New York City, Florida. So it is already sprinkling across. So we want to make sure we have a national presence. We love the idea of the podcast and profiling women's business owners. Yeah, super cool. Makes sense for us. Yeah, I love that.
So I had kind of another take too when I was looking at it. First of all, I love your messaging and I love what you're doing. I think focusing on the gig economy right now is like really what's happening in industry right now. I love your tagline. I think it's perfect. The one thing that I noticed on your application is your big issue is really engagement and growing your audience. So I kind of come at it from a different perspective. I say focus on the channels that are going to be most meaningful to you right now instead of trying to branch out all over the place. Content, especially when you're very small, is very time consuming. It's very hard to do. You may not have the expertise of videography, graphic design, photography. So, kind of starting with your website is where I would focus. And then you're developing a lot of content right now. You have a tips, tools, and whatever section. And then you also have a news section. I would personally combine those two categories into one hub of content. I could get into a whole bunch of stuff in that realm, but then I would feed your channels with that. And Facebook is where you've got the biggest presence right now. But LinkedIn, you're not really on. And I think a lot of people who are looking for work are on LinkedIn. So that's really where people are consuming that type of content, professional content. And then focusing some efforts on, I know you're not really using a lot of Facebook promotion right now. And you can target by by job title, geography, so you can get your content in front of the right type of people, test audiences, and that's kind of where I would start with you guys.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful.
Yeah.
I wanted to can we switch over to your Facebook page? And I guess what I'd like to do is interject a little bit of a question here. Can maybe our content specialists, maybe if we can bring up some of the content that's on here, can you maybe speak to some of the content that they're doing and maybe speak to why it's good, and then maybe interject some tips on how they may be able to improve that?
That was one of the things that I noticed was, so looking back, scroll back to May, there were a couple of posts about Gail Ambrosius, and the chocolate event that she had going on. So you guys had, in like a 9 to 10 day span, you had 4 posts about the same thing. So it's a great post, and it definitely makes sense for your brand, but there wasn't a ton of, let's talk about other things, or let's, kind of spread that out a little bit, or post more consistent and still mix those things in. So that was one of my takeaways from that. And then on Facebook, I noticed if on the kind of the company overview and the About Us, there was a ton of information to where if I didn't know who you were, if I've never heard of you guys before, but I come across this, maybe somebody refers me, that's just a lot of information to process. And so you have a cool logo, and it's, it's a peer-to-peer network, women empowering women, like it makes sense and it sells itself, but you've got to put that out there almost forefront so that people can see that and understand immediately what you're doing and what you're offering.
So in other words, it was sort of too much of a narrative versus just a simple message, is what you're saying.
I think you can still go into that longer narrative, but I would lead with maybe that slogan and maybe that this is who we are.
Yeah.
And I have a question for you as far as just what's the objective right now? Are you trying to get business for the Jills and the few Jacks that you have, or is it about attracting more Jills and Jacks? Because those are two different things. Not saying, so is it both? Which one is the priority?
So the priority right now is to drive membership. And primarily, our model is built on spotlighting and giving more exposure and camaraderie to the Jills. We purposely designed our platform unlike most other gig economy hiring sites, which are transactional. So you've got just a blind, behind the door slew of service providers, and you have clients coming in and they're just saying, we just need somebody to do some coding for $8 an hour. I don't care necessarily who it is, it's not about the relationship. So our model is designed on non-transactional, and it's more about really just putting this collective on the spotlight. So membership is always going to be our priority. It's not about getting people work per se. By exposing the collective, therefore they do get more marketing and more awareness that clients are there for them, and we do connect clients as well. But that's not the priority, and that likely will not ever be the priority. It's always that two-step.
Then I would say building out more content that actually feeds back into the value then of being a part of a collective like that is probably really important. So I think his podcast idea is genius. And I would say I would definitely make that clear, in your content that you're building out, that like, this is why we are doing what we are doing in this way, and this is why this is of value.
Yeah, you bet. Content is definitely part of the membership value. So I want to tag back to Sarah. I was liking where you're heading as well. And so our news tab on our website, that is the blog. So that's just sort of chronological that way. Anything that's in the news then diverts to the appropriate topic or section, subcategory into the tips, tools, trades. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about, so then sort of diverting it, does it look like it's duplicative, but not really?
Yeah, so I mean, what I took away from it was you had, under the news, it was kind of like the events that you were promoting, partnerships with Brava, different things like that.
It was sort of like the Mass Central mothership.
But then when you go into tools, tips, and trade, that's kind of that useful content that people are looking to read on an article about, well, the one, if you scroll down to like March, I think it was, there was a post about women in managing money and not being afraid to ask for more money.
Don't be, ladies, stop being polite about
right,
money.
and that had the most likes that I saw on your page, and that was found in the tools, tips, and tricks section. So right here, I would eliminate this page and I would just make it all your content and I'd make it searchable, because right now there's not a searchable feature in this blog area. So if I'm looking for tips on money or advertising or whatever, I could pull up articles based on that search. Instead of having to figure out, is it in trends, is it in tips?
Right.
You know, so that to me was an opportunity for you guys. And then again, making it searchable, because you have a lot of content in here and you've been sharing it, but you're not promoting it. And so the point of having a content hub is to send that content out into the world and drive people back to your website so they can read the article, click around your site, learn more about you, and use your service. And I did notice that you do have all the Jills listed. So you could feature each one of them, like maybe Jill of the week. And you could send them to their page. Here's all about this Jill. You know, with their picture, you could tag them so people could connect with them if they wanted to. And that being said, kind of starting, I know some of the other panel members had mentioned that your content on Facebook is kind of one note. So what I would do is I would create a content calendar where maybe Monday your theme is the Jills. Tuesday your theme is a blog article. You know, whatever, and you have different days for different things. That way you're diversifying your content.
Since we're on your website, I want to make sure we get Matt into the conversation as well. He's our SEO panelist. If he has anything to add, if not, don't want to put him on the spot in the middle of something, but want to make sure we hear from Matt if he's got anything to share.
I definitely agree with everybody else has to say. I really want to see more of the Jills. And if we go back just to your homepage quick, I think that hero image kind of says a lot to what we're speaking of. Those aren't Jills. These look like lovely people to work with. But I really want to work with your Jills because they're awesome, and I know a lot of them, and they're really fantastic people. So that's just kind of one thing. I also find that, I haven't seen all that fantastic content you have, and I've followed you guys for a while. So you got some really good evergreen content and those tips and tricks.
Yeah.
Keep pushing that. I'd never seen any of that, and I'm the guy that should be seeing that because I'm kind of your demographic. So there's that. The Find a Jill. I really wanted that to go to the page full of Jills, that button right there. I don't know why. I felt like it should get me or have them, straight up here on the homepage. I really think you're getting to the numbers where you can start adding some filters, and here's your graphic designers, your videographers and things. I mean, I know that takes the numbers thing. You need certain numbers of people to categorize a thing. But in terms of the social, I definitely agree with Sarah. Do a member spotlight of the week. Promote, the successes and those wins. Hey, we just paired so-and-so up with this for this project. Here's how it's going. That's you have so many neat stories to tell in addition to your own, but you're just kind of not using a lot of those. I also saw that fantastic resources section too. You've got just a wall of really awesome, both local and national resources. That's one of the best lists I've seen in town of
tools.
Yeah, this is fantastic. This is fantastic content. This is the kind of stuff I look for a lot, and I really want to send other entrepreneurs to. Hey, go check out these resources. Go find Diane. Go find 100 State. Find these organizations. So I think even this in itself is something that you should at least be pushing monthly as a just evergreen content that you're always keeping up to date.
Yeah, You've got
Yes.
so much, you don't have to create a lot right now. You can really use what you have. There's so much on your site.
Exactly, yeah, and that definitely was our goal, to stockpile the categories and now try to figure out how to leverage those and keep spinning those.
So we're almost out of time, unfortunately, for this panel, and we want to hear if there's any audience questions. Your questions can go directly to the Jills, or they can go to the panelists, but please keep it directly on topic with the Jills, as opposed to questions about your other things as well, because we all have lots of questions. There's a question in the back, Shane.
So we'll do 5 minutes of questions and then a final wrap up for the panel on the Jills, and then we'll set up our second business. And we have a question here.
If you have a question, just kind of raise your hand so we can come to you.
Yeah, so when going back to the priorities question you asked the Jills, is it okay to have different priorities in different social medias, or should you have one priority that goes through everything?
I think go ahead.
That's a question, that was one of the questions we have for the panel too. So depending on which social media platform, and do we need them all, first of all, because we are a startup and right now it's just the two of us. So to kind of feed each beast is, we know we're gonna have holes. And is there different priorities for the different platforms? We'd love your answer.
There's definitely different priorities for the different platforms, but it's important to maintain a consistent brand across all of them, whichever ones you decide to be on. And your focus can be different depending on who you're trying to talk to, because of course the demographics are going to be vastly different from, say, an Instagram to a LinkedIn. So if you're trying to reach baby boomers, you wouldn't post the same kind of content. But that brand needs to stay the same, and that message needs to stay the same regardless of where you are.
Sure.
I think LinkedIn and Facebook are where you guys probably ought to be. It's hard to spread yourself much thinner than that. I do love Twitter personally. If you like it, I would use it. I think LinkedIn does the professional stuff. You're a professional organization, so you kind of have to be there. And as far as the Facebook goes, I'd work on that engagement, and a lot of it is boosting posts. If you're posting stuff and you're not boosting it, it's not being seen. And I tell everybody with a business page, if you're going to take the time to make a post and the content, which is hard, make sure people see it, and that means at least throwing a few bucks at it, depending on the audience size.
We'd love some insights on the Facebook ads per se.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, that was one of our specific questions too. Is so how do we promote the business LinkedIn page? How do we point people to it? How do we get more followers?
You need to be engaged on LinkedIn. I would say as you're building out, you need to, that's really LinkedIn right now. You need to be on there. I would say just like you're probably on Facebook multiple times a day, get in the habit of being on LinkedIn multiple times a day. And both of you, if you have your personal LinkedIn pages, make sure you're feeding back into, you guys are tagging. LinkedIn, you build that up. So you go on, follow a bunch of people via the business, and then make sure you guys are feeding. And same thing with the Jills. Every single Jill that's on LinkedIn, you guys should be, tagging them, following them, make sure you let all the Jills know now you guys are really going to start utilizing the Jill's LinkedIn page, and that's, posting, sharing, tagging content. And all those business partners you guys have listed on your website, you can just reshare their content. You know what I mean? I know you guys do that at Brava events when you're talking there, but you could do that with Joanne, even if you're not necessarily involved directly in it. I think it helps to build that reciprocity online. I know I do that at Brava, like people who share our stuff, I'm more likely, I keep better tabs on their feeds because I know they're sharing and keeping tabs on us.
Tactically speaking, is there a way to invite people to follow? Is there a way to invite people to follow your business LinkedIn page?
So you can promote content on LinkedIn, just like you can with Facebook advertising. Again, you can geo-target, you can target by job description, you can target. One thing that I really like to do is groups on LinkedIn, because some people have like their LinkedIn page, but they're not super active on LinkedIn. But the people who are in groups and they're posting in groups, those people really are active. So targeting groups is a great way to get started and get exposure. Posting in groups is another great way to do organically. I loved your idea of tagging the Jills and promoting them, but if your main objective is to increase membership, tagging graphic or promoting content related to like graphic design to graphic designers, and you can have a variety of audiences. You can have a graphic design audience, a photography audience, a whatever audience, and send different content to each. I would say that LinkedIn is more expensive than Facebook, so you may also want to experiment with
Yeah,
that
we've dabbled in
Facebook.
a
It's
couple
lot
LinkedIn
less expensive.
ads and Facebook ads. I was just curious, can you send specific requests for people to follow your business LinkedIn page, like you can for your Facebook page?
I love the cross promotion thing. I'll often do a, hey, on Twitter, check me out on Facebook, or hey, on Facebook, check me on Twitter. Do it for LinkedIn too, and set it up for once a week to say, hey, we're on LinkedIn too. Did you know? It's pretty easy.
Cool.
That's a
Just do it
perfect,
sort of
that's a perfect suggestion. I've got one question here, and then we're going to switch over to Jay Henry. So, really quick.
I really enjoy this, but I can imagine hearing all this, these ideas and great suggestions is overwhelming. And how do you implement all that if you're just the two of you? And I would really encourage your Jills to engage and to be involved. I love doing things like that. And if you ask, especially people who are more introverted and don't know how they can be supportive, this might be a good thing for them to take on. Make sense?
Yeah, we have probed and prodded our Jills quite a bit, and like I said, we never really quite get the tennis ball back. That was really our number one question: is how to create a good.
Known, right? They're coming to your site to get known, and if it's explaining the value, I think you mentioned. People can jump at that. You know what I'm saying? If they don't want to be front and center, but they can jump at, you might want me to write a blog about my experience. That, for instance.
Well, actually, I was going to say that actually my question is, what is the incentive for the Jills? Because here's the thing. When you were saying they don't want to be in the spotlight, but I'm sure they like to make money. I know I like to make money, and everything I do, you better believe everything I do, some way, shape, or form, feeds back into me making money. And if I'm not making money, Bravo better be making money. Do you know what I mean? Like, somebody's got to make money. So, and it doesn't necessarily always maybe translate into cash. It could be something, it could be free stuff, made well dressed me today. It could be, whatever. But I think making it more apparent what those incentives are will encourage the Jills to maybe want to be more involved.
And we'll use that as Rachel's final takeaway. If the three other panelists each want to give us just one thing, what should they do tonight today when they get home to step up their game? And then we're gonna, just for sake of time, unfortunately, we're gonna have to switch over. So.
Make a social media and content calendar. Map out a month full of content ahead of time, diversify it, and stick to it.
Tell us stories about all those great matchups are happening and the kinds of gigs, so you can get to tell a story about what's actually happening and what those benefits are.
I would say reach out beyond just the Jills as far as building your brand. So if you're doing something on Twitter, Sarah just gets nominated for an Athena Award, but she's never heard of you. You've heard of her and you've heard of this. Tag her in that, congratulate her, and then have that lead back to you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Round of applause,
y'all. Thank you so much to the. Thank you so much to the Jills for joining us today. When I said unfortunately we're gonna have to move on, Liz said unfortunately. I am so excited to hear from her as well. I wish that we had 6 hours to do each of these. Obviously, they'd be a lot more beneficial. You probably would all get fired from your job. With that, thank you again to the Jills so much. And Jay Henry and Sons, Liz Henry is going to join us on the stage. We're going to start just like we did with the last one. Liz is just going to tell us a little bit about what her brand is and what they do. These instructions are for her, so I'm going to wait.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so she's just going to tell us a very little about who she is, what she does, and then we're going to turn over the panel for some top takeaways, and then we'll kind of jump into strengths and questions.
We make bourbon.
That's going to help us with time.
I don't want to go on long because I really want to hear what you all have to say. I feel very vulnerable right now, like, oh, I volunteered for this. But I'm really excited because this group, the Social Media Breakfast Group, is a group that I have aspirational goals with. Every time I come to one of these meetings, I'm like, oh, I learned something and I want to implement it, but I'm only one, not even two. So when it comes to implementation, yeah, it may not happen as fast or as smoothly as I would love. We started making bourbon about 8 years ago, almost 10 years ago. We started on this project. We're farmers in Dane, Wisconsin. And we continue to farm. We continue to grow all the grains that go into our mash bill. When my husband started this project, it was kind of like, yeah, sure, honey, go ahead. I didn't realize that it meant, I used to work across the street here on campus and I enjoyed it immensely. And I didn't realize that it would eventually mean that I had to stop doing that and start focusing on our family business. It's been wonderful. We've been on the market for 2 years now. And it's been a fabulous opportunity to work with my husband, which I honestly never thought I would do or say. Because when we were first married 30-some years ago, I worked on the farm, and it was like, hey, I don't need somebody to supervise me, so I'm going to go do another job that I'm better at than answering your questions and having you follow me around. And he was very hands-on and did everything after I did it, so it was kind of a waste of time. But when he started making bourbon, he said, yeah, I'm going to start doing this, and I'm only going to make bourbon. I'm not going to make vodka or gin or any of these other products that come off first, that are easier to make, and I'm only going to make good quality premium bourbon. So when we were just about ready to come to market, he turned to me and said, so we're almost ready to come to market. How are you going to market this product? How are you going to sell it? And so I had a little experience with social media because I worked on campus with students. And so I did a lot of Facebook posting. I'm not a really great tweeter. I don't do as much as I know I should be doing. But it was a great way to interact with the students that I worked with, and that was already almost 2 years ago. So I know that I have lots of room for improvement, and I'm never happy with where things are at. I know that we can always keep moving, and things are moving way faster than us. But I think we're also in an interesting segment. Alcohol creates all kinds of issues. There are a lot of laws around alcohol and distribution that are pros and cons and good and bad. You know, I never want to market to youth. I never want the high school teams contacted us like right away. Hey, you guys want to sponsor the program? I'm like, no, no. And we also have issues around some of the posting, cross-promoting with restaurants and industry and such. That has been one of the greatest opportunities, even as limited as my social media activity is. One of the greatest things that has come out of the limited activity that I've participated in is the fact that we connected with the industry, especially the local industry here in the Madison area. We started a group called the Spirited Women, and it was really organized because I was asked to serve on a panel for Madison Cocktail Week 2 years ago, and realized that there are all these women, again, not to be gender-centric or not enjoying the Jacks also, we do. I have one. I have a couple. I just wanted to, when I was asked to serve on the panel, it was a gender equity in the spirits industry panel, and I was like, wow, that doesn't sound like fun. It doesn't sound really interesting or engaging. And as it turned out, the room was full, and everybody there was really keenly interested in a lot of issues that we decided needed to be addressed and should be addressed on an ongoing way. So one of the greatest opportunities that flowed out of us just posting on Facebook and agreeing to serve on a panel and talk to people was that organization. We raised $6,000 for the Rape Crisis Center in April. We have little events that are low cost or no cost, but we specifically focus on the women in the industry, which is one of my primary focuses in all of the things we do, because they are our celebrities. And I may never have, I'm pretty confident I'll never have Mila Kunis come to our tasting room and slap a barrel. So I have to rely on the folks locally to help us promote, and they've been wonderful, especially as far as cross-promoting and doing events and things like that. So
let's use that as a dive-in point, and let's hear from the panel. And kind of, I know you've collected some great notes on their social and their website, and so maybe let's, because we're looking at the website, why don't we start with Matt, and why don't we dive in on the website and talk about the website a little bit?
Yeah, I like what I see. I like you got a nice map to where I can find you, both in terms of purchasing and in terms of tastings. I'd like to see a contact form on the site. You have a button to a contact form. Form can go straight on the homepage. I think that's pretty important. I noticed there wasn't a contact form on the contact page, which is a little odd, as I recall. So that would be one thing. But no, as far as the website goes, I think it was good. I did want to ask more in terms of social. Are you using saved audiences on Facebook?
Obviously not.
Okay, so I was just curious to know. So last night I just set up a quick one. People that were interested in bourbon, straight bourbon, and something else, and made over 6 figures. There were 60,000 of them in Wisconsin. That's a really good list for you. And I mean, that's a really good list for you. I actually, we had a chance to meet you at the AMA event down at Wisconsin Brewing Company. So I did get to hear a little bit about how you work with distributors, and I think that's really effective. But you have an opportunity to advertise straight to people that love bourbon. And it's pretty easy to do with Facebook. So that would be my highest priority for you.
That's when you go in and set up your group on the left-hand side.
Yeah, so
okay.
We're all into this, so let's nerd out now, right? So in the ads manager, you want to go down to the audiences and create a saved audience. It'll let you pick the demographics in terms of where they're located, pick Wisconsin, and just type in bourbon, and it'll start recommending things like that.
I have done it.
Okay, good.
I know it doesn't sound like it, but I have done
Okay,
it.
good. Well, so mine had about 60,000. And the other thing I would say is make sure that you're doing something similar with your tastings, because that is probably the quickest way for you to connect with an audience, is actually sitting down and getting rapport. You took me through the 3 flights, and they were fantastic, and it was fun. It was a fun thing to do. I now really know your brand, and I like your brand. That made a big difference for me. But when you do those tastings, target within 5 miles of that thing those people that like bourbon and make money. Maybe add some cigar people into it, like play with that audience a little bit. But I would really try to pull people to those tastings from that custom audience for every event you're doing.
Great suggestion.
I would agree with that, and I would say the one thing that I noticed on social media is that I didn't see a lot of promotion about the tastings, hardly at all. I didn't see anything really about your product. What differentiates it from other bourbons on the market? Who is your target audience? Is it Wisconsinites, all bourbon aficionados? Kind of where are you trying to target? You may want to start locally and then expand. With that, on the website, my one question was, if you go to where to buy, so you don't directly sell on your website. So I'm just curious why that is, because the one issue with sending to a third-party site is that, and I don't know what kind of metrics you're getting from the third-party sites, but your visibility into purchasing actions and responses it's not visible.
I think you're asking, we can't sell online.
You can't.
So
okay.
it's illegal.
I didn't know how that.
And so that's why we put Ezra's and Binny's up front, because they're the online sellers that we can rely on. If somebody says, I want a bottle in Georgia, then we send them to them.
Okay, and that's, I figured it was something legally, but I just didn't.
But we also have, and maybe they're not coming up here. Oh yeah, we have maps, and they're not easy to read, and they don't download very fast, and they should be much more populated.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a challenge, because originally we thought it would be great to put up where to try, which means we would be supporting or co-promoting all of the restaurants and bars that serve our product. But that gets really crowded and ridiculous too. So I don't know if you have ideas of better ways. I don't want to just put a list, but maybe that is better.
That could be some of the geo-targeting in your custom audiences, setting up for those cities, and you can find it at the store.
That also might be more useful on some of your social media platforms, where you can target or can tag some of the restaurants and bars that are carrying you, and cross-promote them that way. So, if I'm a fan of your product and I live in Milwaukee, I don't know where I can go to get it. Now all of a sudden I'm seeing a restaurant that you've tagged there that it's like, oh, this guy's down the street, I can easily go there. One of the other things that I took before we get too far away from your website was, you've got this beautiful website, and you've got this really kind of a cool video on there that sort of tells your story a little bit, and it was really kind of a neat story. And I thought, well, why aren't they making that more front and center? Your husband's talking about this was the family farm and his dad bought it back in the 40s, and this was the house that he grew up in, and you're using corn that was developed at UW back in the 30s. Like, there's all these central Wisconsin things. Make that part of your central message of, we are Wisconsin bourbon. Because when I do a Google search for, when I do distilleries in Wisconsin, you guys came up like 5th or 6th on the list. And maybe Matt can talk a little bit more about this on the SEO side, but when I do Wisconsin bourbon, it's all you. So I would focus on that, and get to the point where you can become, the new Glarus, the Spotted Cow of bourbon, or the Wallersheim of bourbon. That's what people think of. If somebody from Nevada comes here and says, I want to go to a winery, or I want to go on a brewery tour, what do they think of?
That's where they get sent. Yep.
Exactly. So make that you, because right now you're the best game in town for Wisconsin bourbon. It's like, you're not in Kentucky, come here. And make that part of your central message. We're from Wisconsin. We grew up in Wisconsin. We use Wisconsin products, and really tell that story and really hammer that home. And I think that will really resonate with that audience.
Thank you.
And I would say about your website, you were talking about going back to the map. You said you didn't just want to put a list, but from someone who works in the media, like me, I've been out to your place and I've written about you guys already. But if I hadn't and I was going to write about you, that is something I need to know where your product is sold. Trying to decipher that map, for me at least, a list is going to be way more helpful. Okay. Plus, I would say if you guys are distributing to any place outside of Wisconsin, there's something really cool about pulling up someone's product website and see, yes, they're sold here locally, but look, these people now have it in Kentucky. And you could even do it by states, and it could be dropped down. And then again, if you have a direct, and you could even hyperlink to those stores or to those restaurants from your website. And again, it goes back to that reciprocity, that cross promotion. You can let them know, we now have a live link to your page on our website. They're going to be more likely to do something for you later on.
Yeah, great suggestion. Thank you.
I would just throw it with the map page. I don't often read things because I'm lazy, but I didn't actually catch that those top 2 images were to go buy online. Because it was written in a sentence and it didn't say buy online till the end of the sentence. So maybe just turn that into a nice big header tag that says buy online. Make it easy for dumb guys like me. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having the map and a list. I think a nice little 3-column list of where everything is at. I can look at it either visually or actually read it. I think that would be pretty helpful. But I think that is a pretty important page for you. There's probably a lot you could do in terms of SEO. A lot of that's going to be around content, talking about Wisconsin bourbon. I didn't do too much of the SEO stuff, but the site runs fast. Technically, it's good. So I think it's just a matter of getting more content out there.
Thanks.
If Liz is open to it, we'd love it if you'd pull up your Twitter account. And the panel maybe can give us some takeaways, even just for a minute or two, because we didn't talk about Twitter in the last one much. And then we can also look at your Facebook page after that. And I'll turn it to the panel.
So one of the things that I noticed on Twitter was you're pretty active. You're not hugely consistent, but you're on there. But you receive a lot of compliments. People seem to be wanting to talk to you, but there wasn't necessarily a lot of let's talk back. And Twitter is a great venue to have those conversations one-on-one with some of your customers and with some of your fans. So I would have loved to have seen more of that, where you're actually engaging with people who already are aware of your business and want to talk to you about it.
Okay. So when you say that, you're suggesting that I don't just reply to people, which I try to do, but that I actually make the reply a post?
You could do that, or in terms of just retweeting so that more people can kind of see it instead of just sending them a direct message back. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I love all the retweets. You're retweeting your competition, collaborators. I think, and that's something that the Jills could probably do more of too. You're actually, I think Sarah touched on this. Their social media people see that and remember you, and so they're more likely to possibly retweet your stuff. You're kind of building a relationship on Twitter. I found that to be pretty valuable.
Okay, thanks.
As far as the replies, ask them a question. That's the best way to engage. So you can answer their question, but you might say, yeah, here's the answer, and what do you think of this idea? And then that's the engagement part, is asking that question.
Okay. And then what about the Spirited Women, like your group that's very active that you started? That would be another great place to like chat with them and to kind of get them, again, interacting with you guys more online so the more people see that.
They are such a phenomenal resource. What I really wanted to do was start a podcast maybe, or a video series where we had each individual bartender making a drink with our product. The problem is it's really hard to get those people and the videographer and everything together, and it starts adding up really fast. Like, how expensive is it? And my videos won't work. Like they're just not that good.
That was kind of an idea that I had too. For you have a blog section on your website, which you do feature. I think you had like a dinner with bourbon, which I thought was really great content that people would love to try out. And then doing like a weekly drink recipe that maybe you just take a photograph of it and write the
Facebook
recipe.
page, you mean?
On your
on our Facebook page?
Yeah, on your website.
Or on our website. the
Yep, so you
blog
put it in your
page, I'm
blog,
sorry.
which you
Yep.
have some good content there. The one thing I noticed about your blog, though, is that there's no images. And when you're posting it on Facebook, there's no image to go along with it. So that that dinner of bourbon, you know, I would have loved to see some imagery there.
See, and there used to be, but they get pushed down. I've been really bad this month. But so do you get more amplification automatically when you post an image?
Absolutely.
So it's much better to post images, especially on all platforms?
All platforms. I mean, it's a visual. I mean, we're visual people. We
People
want to
wanna
click.
see
We
that.
want to see the picture.
Okay.
I was going to actually plug the photographer sponsor of this event, who's not here, Paulius. He's one of the best food photographers in town. He can just make food and drink look amazing. He's somebody you might want to talk to about. In marketing, we call it food porn. Like, it works.
Yeah.
Use it.
But I also would encourage you too. I mean, again, I like to make money, and I also, which means I don't like to spend too much money when I don't have to. And so I would encourage you too to like just get in the habit of doing it. I think sometimes people get in this cycle of, you know, they want to wait until it's perfect to post it. But there's something to be said for the authentic over the perfection. So I agree, it would be nice to have some maybe stock shots that you can use of these perfected pictures. But there's something to be said for taking photos or videos when you guys are in the process. And yeah, it may be grainy and it may not be great, but again, it's real life. And people want to see that like live in the moment too. So I think you can do a bit of both. It's not like you necessarily have to go out and spend $5,000 on this perfect video series, you know, right off the bat.
100% agree with that.
That's
Phones
great.
do so great these days. You just, decent phone will do great video.
Phones do well.
If we could get talk about the Facebook page, I did have a couple things just from a branding standpoint.
Okay.
And this actually goes over to Twitter as well. When I'm looking at your profile picture, I can't really see your logo on here. I know that you previously had just your logo. I would recommend always keeping your profile picture your logo so people can see who you are. And then on Twitter, you had a different profile picture. So it's just not consistent across channels. And then your cover photo is what you can kind of change out for promotions, seasonality, do some different fun stuff with your cover photo, but always
So
keeping
put the logo right here.
Yeah, and you
Okay.
had one in there that you used to use.
Yep.
And then the other inconsistency I saw is your name. Here, you're J. Henry and Sons Wisconsin Straight Bourbon. On Twitter, you're J. Henry and Sons. You kind of have some different. They're similar,
It
but
causes
just
problems.
kind of do that the same. And the other
It
weird
does.
thing is
Yep.
that there's an what do you say? It's like a page that people created for you. It's J. Henry and Sons Distillery.
There's two. You have
There's
two,
two
yeah.
pages.
That's the location, right?
It's the location
I had
because
no
they haven't
idea.
claimed, if you go in there you haven't claimed your location on this page.
Okay.
So if you do that, you may have to merge the two pages together, but there's like 40 followers on that page. So you could merge them and then you'd be 40 fans up.
Definitely do that.
And it'd reduce any confusion.
Okay.
Yeah, I
thank
noticed
you.
the same thing on your Google information. There was a lot, like their phone number wasn't on there, some of the hours. So if you claim that page, you can go in and edit that and then maintain that consistency.
Thank you.
So, can we also talk about these events?
Yes.
Because I've noticed that you've used the event feature a little bit, but it's like 0 going, 0 went. I saw a lot of that. Maybe on a recent testing or tasting from a couple weeks ago. I'm always very hesitant to use those event pages unless I know I can hit a critical mass of people interested in going. Otherwise, it just looks like a really boring event.
It's weird because I was using like the Cascanale event. I was using their page and a lot of people showed up. But you're right, it didn't show like there was anybody coming and it was really
They're tricky
scary.
to get right.
I also do boost posts on occasion, so I'm trying to start doing that. But what's the most effective way, if you can give a suggestion quick, on doing boosts and posting both on Facebook and maybe on LinkedIn if we ever get to that place too? Like,
I think it depends on the event. You know, if you're promoting an event, you want to go hyper local and geo target that. If you're talking about your brand, you might want to target all of Wisconsin. There's certain cases where you might want to target the people who like your page, and there's other times where you're going to want to only target that saved list I'm talking about, people that don't even like your page because you're looking for new business.
Okay.
So it really depends on the kind of content you're talking about.
And I would just say be careful with the pain, the kind of pain to play, because what happens, especially with Facebook, is that once you start spending money, it really starts to affect when you just want to do organic posts, because you don't want to get in a cycle where every single time you post something, you have to pay for people to see it. So I would just say figure out kind of what your budget is going to be. Like, is it going to be $50 a month, $100 a month, or you could even do it annually and then spread it out where it makes sense, but don't just post just to boost them, because we see that, we deal with that at the magazine all the time, where it's like, you know, if we're Facebook, again, they want to make their money. So like they try to force you almost to boost posts. So just be careful about how often you do that. Where, like he was saying, make sure it makes sense what you're boosting.
And I'm big for advertising, actually. So I'm like, like $5 on Facebook will get you 550 people to see your post, which is not very much for $5. But what is it without that $5? You know, you're putting a lot of effort into this. I say put a little bit of money behind it. A little can go, you know, a pretty good ways. Kind of a rule of thumb that I always do is I have an off-page ad to grow my page, and even if it's $5 a day, I boost that. And then as you're sending people to your page is growing, and then anything on your page, those people have opted in to hear from you, then I boost those posts to just the people who are following the page. Or now Facebook also has a new audience of just people who are engaging in your page, so the most active followers.
And does that change frequently, like over time? Not the people engaged in our page, but the way the algorithm works. And because I've noticed some real significant shifts.
It's dropped, like the boosted, I think even a year ago you could get like 1,500 people to see. I mean, it's going to depend on your targeting and how big your audience is, but I'm noticing it's like 500 people lately.
So with that, I'd like to thank the panel and obviously Jay Henry for opening up their social and this. I do want to open it. I want to be mindful of everybody's time, but does anybody have any questions for the panel related to Jay Henry, or questions or maybe even comments for Jay Henry as well? We've got two over there.
We'll take them.
Okay, so do any of the panelists have any experience on how increasing social media presence and doing all of the, implementing the advice that you're giving translates into sales? How can you make that connection? How do you know that a Facebook post is the thing that was responsible for more bottles going out the door? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can kind of talk about that. Being in coffee, not an entirely dissimilar industry, you don't get quite as drunk, but you can Irish it up if you want to. So that was something that we dealt with. When I came into the company, there really wasn't much of a social media presence. And so I built up what we had and then got into some other platforms. So if you, at some point, go to True Coffee Roasters' Instagram page, all I'm doing there is coffee art, bad coffee art. But I do cartoon requests. It's really quite entertaining. But I use that, and I get a ton of following and a ton of feedback from that I'm then parlaying into traffic to my website, which has led to sales. So people will send me message, and somebody asked me for an anime character once I had never even heard of, some cat. And that person ended up buying several pounds of coffee from me. So you can definitely do that by using that engagement through social media to drive sales.
And also making sure that you're set up in Google Analytics. You can really track the source of the traffic, and then if you are an e-commerce site, you're able to kind of see where that sale came from, which is kind of what I was saying is kind of a little bit on the unfortunate side that you go to a third-party, website in order to do the sale transaction, because you can't really see some of that unless they're providing those metrics to you. I'm not quite sure, but.
Well, ultimately, we get that information because we have to know how many cases go to every location, but it's
like
not
the source
the same.
of
Yep, yep, it's not the same. You're right about
I was going to recommend to both organizations to make sure you set up your Facebook pixel. It's kind of confusing to set up, but once it's set up, when you're in and you're running an ad, you can say, oh, just target people that have visited my website in the last year. And that's a pretty powerful audience.
Okay.
So that's a good way to figure out if it's coming from that ad or post or whatever.
Excellent.
And I'm just going to play devil's advocate to that question. I think that people have a tendency to put the cart before the horse. I mean, you got to know before you start throwing money into analytics, you got to know, again, what are you saying? What's your message? What's the intention? And who is your audience? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even know. I built my entire freelance writing career just online. Just when no one knew who I was 5 years ago, you know, and now I'm the assistant editor of a magazine. I write for publications all over the country. I get sponsorships from athletic companies. And I did all that without giving anybody a dime of money or buying ads or anything like that. And I think you got to really know who you're talking to and make the effort to engage with them. And then once you do that and you build a solid base, then you can branch out from there. I mean, at Bravo, we're very clear. Our audience, not that we don't love 22-year-olds to show up at our stuff, not that we wouldn't love for an 80-year-old woman to buy a ticket to Women's Expo, but our audience is women 30 to 60. And we welcome everybody else outside of that, but that's who we're talking to, and that's who we market to.
Good morning. I'm Bethy from Dane by Local. First, I want to say thank you to Liz for doing this. It is really kind of nerve-wracking. And I went to your panel discussion for the women in the industry, and you did a great job. Very inspiring. So my question is, as far as doing Facebook events, do you have any tips on kind of reaching that critical mass of people that you know will be attending your event?
Well, what's the definition of critical mass? Who used that term?
I use that term, and by that I mean, are there enough people that are saying they're either interested going or not going to that event? Because if nobody responds, it just doesn't look. If it's just 000, that's just not a very interesting event. The ads, in my experience, for that particular product, saying like getting people to the event are really expensive. So I would only use it if it's a pretty like this is like the great right size event, because enough of you all will say you're interested, say you're going, or say you're not interested, that it looks like an interesting event. If I'm doing a workshop with 20 people, 2 of them might say they're maybes, and the rest just go sign up and don't engage on that page. So that's what I mean by the critical.
How far in advance would you recommend setting up that event?
6 weeks. As soon as you've got a date. Yeah.
The minimum that you think it makes sense to do? The day before, 3 months before?
Yeah, 3 months before, for sure.
I agree. Just curious. If you're doing it the day before, it's going to be very hard to get critical mass. So I was just kind of curious about like the philosophy of like how much in advance should you start that page? And I would recommend, as soon as you have the date, and if you can't do it at least a month out, I wouldn't even do it. I would just promote the event in other ways.
I've stopped doing them for most of my events because I'm not doing big enough events to hit that critical mass. So I don't use that product at all.
And I would say too, just outside of social media and your website, I've seen a lot of, even though we'll make events on Facebook, we'll drive traffic to those events through our email subscribers. So email has worked really good for.
One of my big questions is we pay a lot of money every month to have constant contact, and I know I'm not utilizing it like I should. So who do you talk to? Do you just go online and use their, constant contact tips and such, or what's the best way to drive traffic using email? Because I've heard from several people that email is really where it's at right now as far as getting people to take an action.
You have a newsletter that goes out on a regular basis?
Not regularly, and I don't think our blog posts are connected directly yet either. Okay. And everybody who comes to our tasting room is offered the opportunity to sign our guest book, and if they sign with a mailing address, we send them a card, like a physical mail card, which takes tons of time, but it's really a big deal. My grandma always sent cards to everybody for everything, and I don't think people get enough cards anymore. But we also ask them to give us their email address, knowing that we're going to contact them, but not excessively, but now it's not even minimally. And so is there a way to link all of those and not use maybe, or is it HubSpot or something like that?
How big is your list?
Our list is over 2,000 people.
Okay. I wouldn't think you should be spending that much with constant content for that size list.
Okay.
That should be free, I believe, under their numbers.
Yep. No, we pay for
Okay, so
the
just
services
look at
that
their
we're not
thresholds.
using.
You might be paying for an account you don't need, or I would just start using it more. You know, if you're
Yeah.
not doing a monthly newsletter, you should definitely be doing a monthly newsletter.
Okay.
This is a tip I actually learned from Josh. Upload that email list to Facebook and make an audience out of it, and then you can geo-target your email list.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it was actually Josh's idea to to do that ahead of a physical mailing, so they see you on social, and then they get a thing in the mail, and they're like, wow, they're everywhere, when really you were just dealing with a couple thousand people.
But that's a great suggestion. Thank you. Again, we want people to be engaged. We want them to come out. We want them to be in groups, and we're joined in groups that are geek groups. They're like the whiskey geeks, the bourbon snobs, there's a ton of them, and they are large, and they're nationwide, and they're really kind of fun because it's gotten us into 2 books now, being involved with those guys, as well as a nationwide podcast. But again, it doesn't bring people to us locally if we don't give them the opportunity. So
Liz,
thanks.
every book, every podcast, that should be somewhere on one of your social media feeds.
Yep.
You know, people should know that you guys are in these books that are coming out or are out, or that you're on this podcast. There should be links to your sites from that. And your space, you need to have more pictures of your space. It is gorgeous on your property. It is so beautiful. So there should be you're on your website, but I don't see that on your Facebook page.
Unfortunately, we have to call it there. But I do want to hear some final takeaways from the panel. And Rachel, if you want to take us off, and just like one last statement.
You got to get the space out more. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Focus on the content and distribute it to all of your channels. You can post the same thing on every channel, just change how many characters you're using.
Okay.
Put that email list to work. Those are your fans, for sure.
Thanks.
Maintain consistency across your social media channels, and again, focus on that Wisconsin bourbon and make that part of your message.
Thank you.
So
Thank you all.
we have a ton of thank yous today. So let's start with Liz. A lot of volunteers helped today and really made this event possible. So thank you to anyone who volunteered to help today with the event. Don't forget we have that group. Upstart and the entire group here at the Discovery Center, really, obviously, we had 7 microphones working today and there was no feedback. So that alone is worth a round of applause. That is not normal. Our 4 panelists all took a lot of time, not just this morning, but prep. So really want to thank them, and let's let them know how much we appreciate it. And then one last thing, and I asked this the last time we did one of these panels. Raise your hand if you run a social media account for a brand. Raise your hand if you'd want to get in front of a room and have a bunch of experts tell you what you're doing wrong. Let's hear it for our 2 businesses and all the applicants. Really amazing. Third Wednesdays every month. We'll see you all next month. Thank you all again so much. If you're not on our mailing list, you are now, if you RSVP'd. So you'll be hearing from us. Thank you.